Hey everybody, this is David. Hope all my friends out there, if you missed one of my demo, I'm just going to do a little practice demo. I didn't advertise this. I just want to try to do this and see how this works out with this live Facebook video. Hopefully I can do some more, but this is just a test. So you're not going to see my face because I got it all set up just to show the demo, but we'll see how it goes. And there's probably many of you not watching, but so I'm talking to myself, but here you go. We're going to start out, I'm going to do this for Easter. I'm going to do this church. It's a church in Vienna that, if anybody you know, my Libertyville class, Dan and I went on a workshop in Vienna, and this is one of the churches inside, and I figured for Easter we're going to do it inside of a church, and since we're all inside anyways, it all makes sense. So here we go. We're going to start out with our lights. We're going to start out with the light areas, and so that being this area right in here, and then even the middle tones of the columns and stuff, we'll just take that and put that all through there. So I'm going to leave this white in the background white because that is white, and even the floor, when we go into the floor, we'll do that too. And so I'm going to be mixing a few colors here. I'm basically going to go with more of an orange violet, which of course is my favorite, so that's why we're going to do it that way. So we're going to go in here and just wet, actually we're just going to wet this whole area here, so we go from light to dark. Go in here and just wet this area. And the colors I'm using are Holbein colors. Holbein makes some of the best colors because I can put them all in my palette and I never have to fill them up. I just go in whenever I want to paint, I just paint. I don't have to fill anything up. So get yourself some nice Holbein colors, are awesome. So here we are, and I like to put the water down and float the pigment into that. And do a little bit of purple. I'm going to pretend like my class is out there, and I'm doing this at my studio in McHenry. So hopefully this will, on a Saturday morning, it's already the afternoon, but hopefully we'll get back to that someday. Here we are. So I did a little bit of purpley blue, and I like to put different colors in there. I'm floating the pigment. And also, you notice my setup. I have the towels underneath there. I'm not using that much paper towel lately. I'm trying to going to the outlet stores, the resale shops, and just buying old towels, old white towels. It's a lot easier. You can just wash them when you're done instead of wasting all the paper. Now, right from here, I'm going to go right into I think the only thing light is this top of this table, so I'm just going to go in here and wet the whole floor. I want to get the look of the light coming through here. If you can see that, the light right there. I'm just going to have that coming right into there. And so here we go into this, always the lights first. I can't see the camera, so I can't tell if anybody's watching. I'll look up the camera later. But if you're watching, thanks for watching. And the color of the floor, I'm going to put the color of the floor in here. The light color, not the dark. It's in Vienna, this church. And there's squares that are dark and light. So what I'm going to do is do the light ones first. And get the whole feel of the light first. You may notice I had a cold yesterday. No, it wasn't the virus. Of course I get a cold when everyone else gets a virus. Thank God that I didn't get the virus, but I have a cold, a sore throat, so my voice may sound a little bit different because of that. Here I'm going to put in some yellows on the top here. Go right through the people, except for this person right here has a little bit of white on, so I'm just going to go around that. But everything else is going to be dark, so I'm just doing the lights. I'm not doing the darks yet, I'm just kind of filling in the lights. And keeping the white to the paper. That's it. We don't use white in watercolor, even though I do have all this white here. I try not to use it right in the beginning, but you can use it later on. It's not a law. You can go ahead and use it, and a lot of people don't like to use it. I tend to kind of like it every once in a while. Again, I'm putting in the mediums and the lights, not the darks. The darks create shapes. Hopefully, if this works out, this video, I will do. I know that Dale, one of the teachers from the former teacher of the American Academy, Dale Popovich, I know he does live videos. And I know Lynn Pratt also does some live videos, and she does them more as classes. And so I'm thinking if this works out, we'll let you know without painting, and we'll paint along. Here again, I'm just going in. And as you notice, I don't do much mixing over here. Oh, I just bumped the video. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just going to go in here and just kind of get these mediums. The dark parts, and that right there, those little dots, those are masking fluid, and I put those down to protect the white, so the lights will be kept there for later. Okay, a lot of people noticed that my palette was clean, which normally it isn't, but just for this video I cleaned it a little bit. The reason you work wet into wet is so that I can get all these soft edges. These are all soft edges. That's the reason you want to keep it wet. You can't get soft edges unless you wet the paper. So you hopefully will get all your soft edges in the beginning. Normally in my class on Saturday mornings, I do a demo like this in about 15 to 20 minutes. This one might hopefully take a little bit longer. I want to spend a little bit more time on it and give you an idea of how to go through a watercolor painting, and see if you like doing watercolor paintings. People tend to say that the watercolor paintings for them are the hardest, but I find them to be easier than the acrylics and the oils, because basically these watercolors work themselves. You never have to soften an edge, they all soften themselves. I'm looking at the camera to see if anybody's watching. Oh, look, we got some people watching. Well, thanks for watching. So we're going in here again to get all the soft edges and all my mediums and lights. So basically you're coloring at first. You're just coloring the objects and capturing the light, kind of capturing the light of the situation right now. So this back here is a little bit lighter, or a little bit darker, I should say. I'll get these really darks later. I don't have to get them right away. You get them later after you put in your lights and your colors. My color scheme is pretty much going to be orange and purples. I know orange is a complement of blue, but I like purple better. Just a thing. So here's a little dark one here. I'm not going to take and do all this little details in the beginning. I know a lot of artists like to work detail to detail. I work more big area to big area. Big area of lights, big area of darks. And then later on, I go get the details after I get my whole value pattern in there. My teacher, Irving Shapiro, was always into making you do a value study. I use the photo as a value study because I see all the lights and darks in the picture. So we're going to know later on that I'm going to put the little darks in there so I can put them in now. I know that there's a little dark shades right there, but I want these soft, so I'm going to put them in now. And I will color the squares to the tiles later. That person right there is going to be darker, so I'm just going to Again, I'm going for the light. I'm going for the light of the painting. This back there is way in the distance, so I'm going to take a little smaller brush. I'm going to just get that in there. I also gray it down a little bit because that's in the background, so I wanted to stay back in the background area. These chairs that are dark, they're going to be done on top of this when this dries. This a little bit darker. Alright, so now we have to wait for this to dry, but luckily I have my hairdryer right next to me. So I will get a little loud, so close your ears for a second. I'm going to dry this really quickly so we can get going. So you don't have to sit there and wait and watch. Close your ears. Real quick, we're going to dry it. Normally I wouldn't use a hairdryer because you want the watercolor to do its own thing. The reason you normally don't want to use a hairdryer is because watercolor works until it's dry. So these excuse me, these soft edge lines will keep on softening themselves. But if you dry it too fast, it won't give them a chance to do that. And see, like this area, I forced it to dry faster, and so you're going to get little watermarks too sometimes if you force it. That's okay. We'll just keep on going here. So now I've got all my lights. My lights are all in there. My colors are in there. My values are pretty close. Now I just have to go for my darks, and the darks create shapes and objects. So I'm going to go and get the objects, all these little lines to show the columns in the church. And the lights in here are, again, masking fluid. So I'm going to get those later on. I'll just take those out, and I'll bring back to the white of the paper. And then I'll rub a little bit to get the little glow I get in there. So I'm going to take a little bit smaller brush this time, maybe my round brush. And let's see, maybe a half-inch brush. Let's see if I can put my Facebook on my computer here and see what's going on. Hold on 1 second. All right, I'm just watching my computer now. I see that we have a few people on there. Thanks a lot for sharing. All right, so it's dry, and I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna start from the background, work my way forward. I'm just gonna kind of go in here, go quickly. And these are now gonna be my middle tones and darks. I already got my lights and my colors. So now we're gonna go in here and get my middle tones and my dark colors. So I was thinking if this does work out, I'm going to try to do a little bit of teaching online, which I've been looking into. I have ordered a good webcam, but it's coming from China, and it's going to take forever, so I'm going to have to go out and get one actually in the car, and not have to order it because it doesn't seem like Amazon is also working that fast right now. So you see how I'm just getting details now? And when I'm mixing colors, Holbein colors are really, really intensely valued, and the pigment is so great. The amount of pigment in it is just amazing. And so I like to mix on the paper. So a lot of times what I do is I wet the paper first. Like I'll go in here and I'll wet it with any color, doesn't matter. And then I'll drop color into that areas. And this is a little light right there, so I'm going to stay away from that, go right over it, leave the paint away from that area. And then this is the background too, so I don't need to go and way back there and do too much detail. I just need it enough to look like it's back there. And I can work that area, and I try to work it until it's done. I don't try to have to think I'm going to go back into that area afterwards. That's the great thing about watercolor too. It's like you get it done, it's done. And then see the soft edges? That's because I wet it first. And the more pigment you use, the less it's going to run, so you'll get more of a line. Sorry I have a gravelly voice, but I'm just getting over a cold. And now the dark on the actual building itself too, where the arches here is darker, so I'm just going to go in, and I want a hard edge now on this edge, so I don't wet anything if I want a hard edge, because that's how you get a hard edge, is you don't wet it, you work with dry paper. Sorry, I'm watching myself again on the Facebook page. Just making sure everything looks good over there. Again, this person, I actually put 2 people in there. In the picture, there's only 2. I put 3 in there just because odd numbers are always better than even numbers on a painting. Putting in reflections, and again they're going to be hard edged, but they're low contrast, so they won't look hard edged because they're low contrast. There's not much contrast. The more contrast, the harder the edge is going to look. This is a great workshop I went to. This was Vienna. It was a river cruise workshop that I had taken. And we had a great time taking a bunch of pictures of so much in Vienna, all the way to Oktoberfest in Munich. And it's in October last year it was. Oh no, actually 2 years ago now. Oh man, time flies. So see, now I'm getting my darks, and the darks create the shapes. The columns are starting to come alive, come in front. Hard edges. How do you get hard edges? You don't wet the surface first. And once your surface is wet, then I do my wet into wet float your pigment thing. Floating your pigment, that's my big thing where I say, where you take, once it's wet, you take the pigment, the actual pigment, and you float it into there, and you can put any color you want in there. They all mix themselves together. I don't mix much here, I mix more here. Because they do that by themselves. You don't need to do that for them. Just go down here, just get all the little darks in there. I paint areas, I don't paint pieces. Later on, when I do my details, then I start painting more pieces. At first I need to get the big values in there so I can get my big value patterns all going. Later on I'll do more pieces when I need to get into the details. But now I gotta get the overall look of it first. See, I put red in there, so it knows what you put in the reflections. I'll put it to the top part here now. And this is not very detailed a painting. It's just a very fast, more loose, plein air type of painting where you're not doing too fine a detail. And it is a demo, and my demos are a little bit different from my studio work. My studio work is a little bit tighter. But it all starts out the same. I do the same for all paintings I do. Just in the end, it gets a little bit tighter. There's you by the pulpit over there. See, kind of that's back in there. See how I work an area and I try to get it done. I will never go back into these areas unless there's detail in them. I try to get the area done and then move on. I don't try to go jump all around. Just try to get in there and get out. This is a little bit darker up there. A lot of people ask me, what color am I using for that area? It doesn't matter, just look for the values. I like to put all the colors in there, and mostly though, like I said in the beginning, is that I'm using mostly purples and oranges. And so that's the color I'm kind of gearing it towards, but I put every color in there really, I just let it float. Once the water's down, you can just pour it right on there. I have to wait for that to dry so I don't ruin my hard edge. I might want to have a hard edge right there. So I move on, keep on moving on to this area. Now there's a bunch of chairs in front of this area, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the little bit lighter right in front of them, and then I'll do it dark on top of it. The big thing about watercolor, it always is getting darker and darker as you come forward. And so you just do your lights parts first. That's why you mostly do your light parts, so that you can just go over them with the darks later. It's going to be fun when I do the crisscross pattern in the floors. Let's see what we got here. So now we're getting the pretty big areas done here. And they say you can only, you can't wipe out. Oh yes, you can. You can wipe out. You can wipe out a lot in watercolor. The paper I'm using is called Stonehenge Aqua. It's a new paper that Legion put out, and it's an awesome paper because you can wipe out. Really easy to wipe out compared to some of the arches is a little bit more absorbent. So see how I just wiped out a little bit of that. With arches, it sucks it in, at least the 300 pound that I get. And I love arches still. I mean, it's a great paper, but I'm actually like working on hot press type of paper. And to me, Stonehenge Aqua is kind of like a hot press, but with texture. It's like a hot press with texture. It sits on top a little bit more, and that way I can get a little bit nicer. Colors are more vibrant on top. When they sit on top, they don't absorb into the paper as much, so they give you a little bit more vibrancy. And Holbein colors are so vibrant that it's great to just have them pop out like that. Alright, I'm going to use the hairdryer again just for a second. Sorry about that. Keep on bumping my head on this thing. Hold your ears. Okay, we're back. Shoot, I do that again. Everything in order. Oh, where'd my picture go? Blew my picture away, huh? All right, there we go. Don't want to blow my picture away. So let's go back in now and get our dark details. We got our mediums, our lights, and now we go for the darks. The really nice darks. Take my my smaller brush because I'm doing smaller things now. Anytime you do smaller, you use the brush that best fits the purpose. So now I'm going for a nice small brush. I have to do a little bit darker. Can't quite tell what's in there. Just going to get as much done as I can in the background here. And some of the orange glow. Some of the orange just glow in here. It comes down. Do a little faking of the stuff back in this area. And there was a person back there, but just up behind them. And a few things back here. Alright, so see how I'm getting darker and darker as I go along. Like William Alexander used to say, "Daka, daka, daka." So here we go with the people. We'll give them a go right in there. And I'm not doing a portrait of anybody. They're just people back here. I'm just going to do a little gesture of people in the background. They are our center of interest. This area right here is our center of interest. I like to call it an area of interest because center of interest means more an object. It's not so much an object as it is a whole area. So I like to call it an area of interest. Your main center area of interest, that's most important. Let's give this person, looks like they have a vest on, so I'm going to give them a red vest to make them even more important. Right now he has a dark vest, or she, I can't quite tell. I think it's a lady. Get right into getting there. And then right away, might as well put in some of the reflections, going right down into the ground. This person has some dark pants on. And there's a person next to him, which is not in the picture, but I just decided to do that because 3 is always better than having 2. If you do put just 2 people in, make one shorter and one taller. That way it gives you more design senses a little bit better. The picture is not the rule. You don't have to follow it to a T. You're the artist. You can create whatever you'd like. Make it whatever you want. If you don't like the color of what somebody's wearing, you change it. You're the artist. Do whatever you like. Have fun with it. See, all the details now come into play. I'm trying to do the detail in the center of interest first so I know how far I have to go with other details. You don't want to start with the details out here because then if I go too far with them, it's going to have to be super photographic in this area. So I always like to do the center of interest first details because then I know how far I went with them and I don't have to go as far with the other ones. Put this aside here. I'm going to get some of these darks in here. That's a blue. Let's get a purple. But back in this distance area back here, there's some doors way in the distance. But it is pretty dark back there, so I'm making it a little bit cooler color. And I can't tell exactly what's happening back there. If I put my glasses on, I could, but that's all right. We'll make it up. Again, you're the artist. You make stuff up if you need to. Do whatever you want to make the painting look as your own painting. It's your painting. You do what you want. Once you get the value pattern going, then all this little detail is just like the writing on the cake, or the frosting, and then the writing. Because it's pretty much all has the feel already of a church. It's just now we're just putting in the details. So the lighting is already there. Everything's looking pretty decent. So now we just have the fun part. This is the fun part. Some of the same color that you have here, get it up here too. You don't want to have a color in a painting that's all by itself unless you want it in the center of interest and really want your eye to go to that area. Because you want, you know, if you have a color of orange, let's say I'm going to use some of this orange in this area, you got to use it somewhere else. It's got to be part of the scheme, the color scheme that you're using. Here now we have a little detail of this. Here again, the darks. Those other darks are more medium, and so now as I noticed a lot of times when they dry, if they are too light, you can always go back over. People think you can't go over and over. You can go over as many times as you like. Just make sure it's dry the second time or third time or fourth time or fifth time you go over it. Later on when I do a few classes online, I'm hoping to do, it'll probably be more of a paint along. It won't be as hard as this, something like this, but it will be just a little bit of paintings that I'll run you through. We'll do section by section, and I'm going to take a look at this video afterwards and just see how it went, and I'll let everybody know what's going to be happening with my classes online. Still working on it. I'm still waiting for a, oh geez, I moved that too far. Let's see if we can get my webcam coming. All right, so now we have the little candle holders over here. So put that in there. And this is detail, so, and before I drew this, I made sure everything was in the picture. I just kind of check out where everything is. And make sure that the patterns and the drawing, parts of the drawing look okay. That nothing is in tangent with something else, or if it looks odd, I'm not going to put it in if it looks odd. Because then it would even look more odd once you put it in, because we're doing a painting, it's not a photograph. These chairs back here are just dark chairs, and so I'll just do the tops of them. And we'll go 1, 2. These are the back parts of the chairs. And I'll do the backrest. Now the seats of the chair. See, I'm not that detailed on this one. All right, there's a few seats in the church. It's a little door to get up in this area, remember? Go here, a couple lines in there. Back of the table, leg. It's not that detailed, but I'm going to put a few more swirly whirls in here just because I want to. Very technical terms that I use. Swirly whirls. And we're going to put a few candles sitting in there. put in the floor, I'll be putting in some of the rectangles of the floor because it's checkerboard, and so that's kind of fun. Let's see, a few more things. Which brush am I looking for? Here it is. So get in here now. Get that in. We're almost done. Not too far, much farther. And now notice in here, there's a nice dark in there that kind of separates it so it doesn't look like just one big, huge thing going on here. So we'll go in here nice and dark. Next time I will advertise when I am going to be doing another demo. I just didn't want to advertise this one because this is the first one, and I just want more of a test to see how this all works. Because if I screwed up, then I would have been, you don't want to screw up in front of thousands of people. And so now we're just going to do a little bit of a line here. Oh, that's a little bit too thick, so paper towel. Not paper towel, I mean towels are much better than paper towels. Alright, so all I have left now, it looks like, is the rectangles on the floor. So what I'm going to do for that is take like some of these orange colors. Oh, I forgot, I got to take out the masking fluid too. I'll do that in a little bit. So now all I do is I go in here and I look for pattern, and so it's just, I don't want to make it really contrasty, just enough to show that there's a difference in each checkerboard pattern of the floor. If I did it too dark, then it would draw attention, too much attention to it. But just enough to show that there is a checkerboard in there is just fine. There we go. I'll just put a little bit of... See, now that one is almost a little bit too dark, but it's getting closer to the center of interest, or area of interest, I should say. That it's okay. Right over the dark here. And I put it in afterwards because I've got underneath it, it's transparent watercolor, so whatever I have underneath it will shine through. So if it's a little bit darker shining through, it'll shine through dark here too. It's smaller, larger. Again, as it goes back. I don't want to make it really dark, because if it's really dark, again, it would just be way too, it would look like an object. And I don't want to look like an object, I would just want to look like a pattern in the floor. Now here in the center we have some kind of little plate there. It goes into the basement of the church, I think. So we're not going to make that really dark. Just again enough to show something different right here. Shadow underneath the chairs, and we're almost through. So I'm not sure how long this is taken. I haven't been watching the clock, but usually it doesn't take me too long to finish a painting. You can ask my class. Alright, let's see. Oh, now the masking fluid. Usually I take a Nita rubber cement pickup. Don't see one around at the moment, but I'll use my Nita rubber eraser. Works just as well. I'm going to take away see how it takes away the lights. There's another one, and this one in here. Make sure that your paper is dry when you do this. And you have to watch out too, some of the masking fluid, I use Holbein masking fluid. It's really nice masking fluid. But the Stonehenge paper sometimes is a little soft, and so you have to really watch yourself so that you don't rip your paper. Just take it off slowly. And don't apply soap to your masking fluid. Use a brush. You don't have to apply soap. It kind of sometimes dilutes it and doesn't, and it absorbs into the paper more. So just use it right straight out of the bottle. I find it works better that way. Now I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to wet this area and try to scrub it a little bit so that it looks like it's shining. little scrubby action going on here. I do have a scrubbing brush somewhere. And take your paper towel, rub on there. You can also use white. I don't mind when you use white. You can go in here like this, wet it, and then just use pure white. And then just let that float. I know there's a few sites that don't let you using white, but sometimes it looks nice that way. So you decide what you want to do. You can use white if you want. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm going to put a little bit of reflections in there. And a few more things, and I think we're done. Just a few more things here. Darken around the lights a little bit so that it looks like it's, as it goes away from the light, it gets darker. And there you have it. Let me take the tape off because usually that's always the fun part. Let's see how it looks without the tape. All messy like that. I have a special, Holbein also makes a special new tape. It's a really thin, like masking tape. It's just a little bit different. It comes in rolls like this, but it's really thin, so there's a lot on there. But it's a really thin tape, and it actually works out really well. I like it a lot. Alright, so here we have the church in Vienna. Interior church in Vienna. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for the next one. Oh, also another thing is that if you want to look at this by putting it on my website as a daily painting for tomorrow, and you can purchase it if you'd like. I'm trying to sell a lot of my demos lately, just to keep my place open here. I'm working in my studio right now, and with this thing, we don't have any workshops going out there. So everybody have a great day and stay safe, everybody. Thanks a lot.